Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm Szeltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. Here's what to expect in this show. Most abortions are illegal in Argentina, but is the abortion rate still higher than in the U.S.? We discuss. A 15-year-old pro-lifer gets punched outside a Planned Parenthood. Students for Life's Kristan Hawkins joins us with an update. And this.
He was dying from cancer, and he has suffered so much in the last year.
We honor a man who taught a Catholic community how to die with true dignity. But first, our top story, a pro-life group blasts insurance companies for not disclosing abortion coverage, with the Obamacare enrollment deadline looming next week. Research conducted by the Charlotte Lozier Institute and Family Research Council discovered 8 health insurance carriers offering qualified health plans in 5 state exchanges do not provide any disclosure on the abortion coverage in their summary. That disclosure is required by the Department of Health and Human Services. In a letter to the HHS Acting Secretary Eric Hargan, the pro-life Susan B. Anthony list blasts this noncompliance and demands action before open enrollment for Obamacare ends next Friday, December 15th for most states. Genevieve Plaster is the Senior Policy Analyst at the Charlotte Lozier Institute, the Susan B. Anthony list's pro-life research arm. It's good to have you back, Genevieve.
Thank you, Catherine.
This pro-life research on insurance coverage was an extensive project for the Charlotte Lozier Institute. What inspired it?
Well, what we really wanted to do was focus on the lack of transparency and accountability when it comes to abortion coverage being in Obamacare plans. So, as you might remember, with the first year of Obamacare rolling out, the Independent Government Accountability Office, they also did an extensive review. And what they found was that more than 1,000 plans covered elective abortion. And speaking with individual companies, they, as a sample, for instance, they talked to 18 companies, and most of the companies didn't supply this abortion coverage information prior to potential customers enrolling.
As you mentioned, it's that lack of transparency. So what kind of consequences could insurance carriers face for not disclosing this abortion coverage?
Right. So in this particular case, because Section 1303 of the Affordable Care Act does require abortion coverage disclosure in the actual plan document called the Summary of Benefits and Coverage. In 2015, the Department of Health and Human Services issued a final rule kind of implementing and providing additional guidance on this, saying that it is absolutely required for carriers to provide notice to potential customers if the plan covers elective abortion. So with that, the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services recently, this October, they published a bulletin giving more guidance on this and basically underscoring the need for compliance, that companies need to provide this information. If they don't, then they would face decertification or a civil monetary penalty.
You all released a letter to the acting director of the Department of HHS. What exactly do you want to see from HHS? What action should be taken? Especially
since the enrollment period is coming quickly to a close, December 15th.
Right.
We're really hoping that the Department of Health and Human Services would be able to take some swift actions to ensure that these carriers, we found 8 of them, 8 companies, would come into compliance, basically listing whether their health plans cover elective abortion or not. And then with that, that the current enrollees, people who have already purchased these plans, would be provided additional notice if any of the updated health plan documents, like the Summary of Benefits and Coverage, are changed, that they are made aware of any changes.
Genevieve, doesn't the Hyde Amendment prevent and prohibit any tax dollars from funding abortion? How can Obamacare get away with this?
The Hyde Amendment is a really great pro-life law, and it absolutely does prohibit federal funding of elective abortion. what happened is before the Affordable Care Act passed, so back in 2009, pro-lifers and pro-life members of Congress really were pushing for the full protection of the Hyde Amendment in what was known then as the Stupak-Pitts Amendment. What ended up happening is that there was the final version of the Affordable Care Act that was passed. It contained a so-called compromise called the Nelson Amendment. And what the Nelson Amendment did was it essentially allowed for health plans to cover elective abortion, that is, if your state allows for it, and then to create this accounting gimmick where if your plan does cover elective abortion, you would pay the general premium, and then you would pay a second separate surcharge, abortion surcharge. So supposedly the funds would be segregated. And again, the GAO, after the first year of open enrollment for Obamacare in 2014, noted that several of the companies that they interviewed were not doing that, were not segregating funds. So,
thank you so much for your work into this. I know it was very extensive. Genevieve Plaster from the Charlotte Lozier Institute.
Thank you, Catherine.
Open enrollment for Obamacare ends next Friday, December 15th for most states. But as we've been reporting on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, Obamacare was not changed in 2017, and hundreds of plans will cover elective abortion in 2018, plans which include tax subsidies. It is important that if you are enrolling into Obamacare, you do not select a healthcare plan that covers abortion. We have a way to help you choose the right plan. Pay attention, because here is this week's special call to action. Find out if your insurance plan covers abortion so you can choose a life-affirming option instead. Here is how you do that. Go to obamacareabortion.com. When you get to the website, you will see a map of the United States. Click on your state and find out if your insurance plan covers abortion. This is must-see information for anyone coming up on the deadline for open enrollment. Please share this with your friends. Tragically, 100% of the individual and family plans in the exchange in 6 states and the District of Columbia cover abortion on demand. But there are 26 states that do not allow elective abortion coverage in plans offered on the state exchange. Find out about your state and don't fall into the trap of buying onto a plan covering abortions when there may be other options available for you. Once again, open enrollment for Obamacare ends next Friday, December 15th for most states. So this is an urgent and special call to action. Go to obamacareabortion.com so you don't select a healthcare plan that covers abortion, and share this with your friends. Turning now to more pro-life news, Spain's national court has ruled a subsidiary of Planned Parenthood International can no longer be designated a public service organization. The Family Planning Federation in Spain will now be stripped of its numerous tax, administrative, and legal benefits. The Christian Lawyers Association celebrated the decision, pointing out the abortion provider is funded by Planned Parenthood, which has been under U.S. congressional investigation for the alleged trafficking in the organs and tissues of aborted babies. A doctor fired for her pro-life stance wins a major case in Norway. According to news reports, Katarzyna Jakimowicz, originally from Poland, was fired after refusing to provide intrauterine devices, or IUDs. IUDs can cause the death of unborn children. But last week, a Norwegian appeal court ruled Jakimowicz's conscience rights under the European Convention of Human Rights had been infringed because a patient could easily obtain an IUD from another medical professional. That case marks the first legal victory for freedom of conscience in Norway, and it's a pro-life win as well. The nation of Argentina bans abortion in most cases, and yet there are reports of more abortions in the South American country than in the United States. The Los Angeles Times reports Argentina's pro-life laws are widely circumvented, and researchers are finding that the abortion rate in Latin America is far higher than it is in the U.S. The Argentine government reportedly estimates between 370 and 522,000 abortions are performed every year. Most are illegal and very few are prosecuted. Dr. Lenin de Janon Quevedo is a bioethicist who works as a senior research scholar and associate professor of bioethics at the Pontifical Catholic University of Argentina. He joins us from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
There are reports that even though abortion is illegal in Argentina, its abortion rate is far higher than that of the United States. Do you believe that to be true?
Well, I believe that abortion is an extremely complex issue that can't be reduced to mere numbers, in particular when there is no official data. The available data has been drawn from sociological research, and in my opinion, it is not statistically robust, at least not enough statistically robust, and therefore doesn't reflect local reality. Let me say just a few words about how this data has been collected. First, the shocking amount of 300,000 to 500,000 abortions per year, numbers frequently seen in the press or even taken as a reference in some documents, are just calculation derived from sociological surveys. And sociological surveys, strictly speaking, are not the same as social epidemiological research. Second, sociological approach, as well as many other social sciences, uses preconceptions as theoretical framework. For instance, asserting that the final number of abortion will always be underdetected due to the legal status, or asserting that the bans on abortion affect the poor women exclusively. Third, because of the preconceptions, researchers especially and intentionally apply multiplication factors that hugely increase the final number. This is why I think that this data obtained in such a way, are very biased according to political, ideological, and even partisan views of the researchers.
Doctor, can you give us a sense of the nation's view of abortion? Are most Argentinians pro-life?
A study conducted by the Pew Research Center shows that 2 in 5 people in Argentina would support legalization of abortion. But I wouldn't say that there is an anonymous opinion on that, because the opinion of urban populations differs from that of population from rural or suburban areas. What is clear to me is that Argentines love family, big and lively families, and try to care for all its members, especially the vulnerable ones, be they kids or elders.
Dr. Lenin de Janon Quevedo, thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure.
In more pro-life news, a 15-year-old student is taken to the hospital after a woman punches her in the face outside of a Virginia Planned Parenthood last weekend. The moment was captured on video. Take a look, but warning, parts of this video are graphic.
Is she gonna do something?
The student, Purity Thomas, is a high school leader with Students for Life of America. The group claims she was peacefully sidewalk counseling outside Planned Parenthood last Saturday when a woman sparked the altercation. The woman reportedly approached the students and stole a sign that read, "All people are made in the image of God," which prompted one of the students to begin filming before the woman approached the group a second time and punched Purity in the face. Joining us now is Kristan Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America. Kristan, it's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
First off, how is Purity doing?
She's doing okay. She had a mild concussion because of the attack. So she's experienced some headaches, but she's on the road to recovery, and her parents are monitoring her condition closely.
Since last weekend, do we know any more about what started this altercation and what's going to come from this? Will there be any repercussions?
Well, we definitely know that this woman, the assailant, she was a patient at the Planned Parenthood. The sidewalk counselors, the students there, actually believe she might have been an abortion patient. She had shown up in sweatpants, which is kind of normal for women who are told to dress in baggy clothing before an abortion. We know the police, after they were called to the scene of the crime, went into the abortion facility, talked to the woman, they talked to the students. Our students actually offered to show them the video of her punching Purity. The police at the time said, we don't want to watch it. They did not.
That's unheard of it.
Yes,
right?
Especially because you're talking about adult assaulting a minor.
Right.
They actually left the scene of the crime and had told Purity that if she wants to press charges, they will then consider arresting her. And we've called the police department several times there in Roanoke, asking why they didn't arrest the woman, why are they putting the burden on this 15-year-old girl, and so we haven't heard a lot back. We actually just filed a FOIA request because yesterday the Roanoke Police Department released a statement saying that there had been no assault and that they didn't see any video when we had actually offered to show them the video.
Kristan, is this an isolated incident? Have you seen other similar situations like this pop up with your students?
This is the first time we have ever heard of a student being attacked physically like this.
Okay.
They were standing on public property, peacefully praying like they do every Saturday, the abortion day at the Planned Parenthood. We have had students in the past be attacked at community events and they're passing out our postcards or something like that. Sadly, though, this is a trend that we've been seeing this year. We've had an increase in vandalizations where students feel that they can trample on our crosses, steal our displays, walk away, curse and spit at our students with no repercussions. And I think it's sort of escalating in our country, and I think many people can kind of see that.
There's a lot of anger there.
That's right.
Something is brewing behind it. We only have this video of this attack because a student started recording it.
That's right.
Is this something you train your students to do? When do you call for them to start recording being outside of a clinic?
We always, one of the first things we tell our students is you've got to get trained to handle kind of situations, emergency situations like this. And this is one of those things when you're talking at an event or if you're having an on-campus event and things start to get escalated, we always teach the students how to try to de-escalate the situation, how to get the person to start talking. Because a lot of times you have to realize you're talking to a wounded person, someone who has a personal story with abortion. And so they're trained in that. We've trained them to turn on the cameras to record what's happening, because as we're seeing right now, we have the video proof of this assault and the police department saying, well, we were there and there were no injuries.
And it's good that there is this evidence right there. There's a new video released this week from Abby Johnson and her group, And Then There Were None, of former abortion industry workers talking about sidewalk tactics. Let's take a look.
But there were some protesters that were very kind, but the majority of them were very ugly and try to make you feel bad.
And one thing I'd like to say about protesters is that love wins.
Kristan, looking at that video, what kind of response can a loving encounter outside of an abortion clinic have?
Sure, and that's one of the things I've been disputing a lot of the police reports and the newspaper articles about Purity's situation. They say, well, students for life members were protesting. We don't protest at an abortion facility. You don't go to protest. You go to be a witness, to have a prayerful presence, a loving presence, standing there for those victims who will not have a voice, who won't have a say that day, and also standing there for her. And the powerful impact that you can actually have just going and being a voice. And I encourage pro-lifers across the country, even if you don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. Just go and be there. The simple fact that you're there, especially when young people go out and turn out in mass, to know when a young woman's walking into that Planned Parenthood and she sees her peers, she sees people who are her age giving up their most precious asset, their time, at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning to be there for her, that's a powerful witness.
And peaceful encounters, which you have no idea what that can lead to.
That's exactly right. And you always have to understand that you're showing the love of Christ in everything you do. And there's a time for protest. I'm the bullhorn person, and people see me out in the Supreme Court. There's definitely a time for protest, and I love a good protest. But when you're in front of that abortion facility, that's not the time to do it. And I think there's a big misconception in the country in general what pro-lifers do in front of those abortion facilities.
Kristan Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
When we come back.
And especially at the end of his life, the courage that he showed and the manner in which he witnessed to what it means to be a faithful, loving Catholic.
We tell you about a man who upheld the dignity of life until the very end of his life. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner. An online news website aimed at millennials publishes a puff piece on a late-term abortionist. That's this week's Speak Out topic. Just days ago, the website Elite Daily released a piece called How Dr. Leroy Carhart's Abortion Clinic Stays Motivated Through Political Threats. Carhart is a 75-year-old late-term abortionist celebrated in the abortion industry. He's one of 4 U.S. late-term abortionists. The Elite Daily article used flattering language throughout the piece, saying Carhart continues to find a way to serve women. It also highlighted pro-abortion groups fundraising to maintain Carhart's business. Here's some more information on Leroy Carhart that wasn't included in that Elite Daily piece. Carhart's history is riddled with scandal. It's filled with injured women, some of whom have died, health violations, and gross negligence. Carhart himself admits one of his patients died, but claims it was due to pregnancy complications. The pro-life group Live Action even featured Carhart in their Inhuman investigation, where he joked about his abortion toolkit and admits he'd perform abortions on healthy women and babies. This is a man we need to pray for, not praise. He is not serving women, he is hurting them. The fact abortion advocates hold Carhart's extremism up on a pedestal only further reveals their agenda. There is no more rallying for safe, legal, and rare. Today, pro-choice advocates push for abortion anytime, anywhere. Elite Daily should regret this puff piece on Leroy Carhart. And as I mentioned, we should pray for him. Let's pray his eyes are opened, his heart is softened, and that he stops performing abortions. And there is more you can do to counter today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to ObamacareAbortion.com to find out if your Obamacare plan covers abortion. Find out so you can choose a life-affirming option instead. Suffering seems to be an increasingly foreign concept in our world today. For example, groups pushing for assisted suicide claim its legalization is necessary to end unbearable suffering. But this week, we have an example of a man who, when faced with a terminal illness, used his pain to grow closer to Christ, to inspire and help others. A man who shows us what death with dignity truly looks like.
Let us bow our heads and ask for God's blessing.
At the 2017 National Catholic Prayer Breakfast, Father Arnie Panula led the group prayer just 1 month before his death. Panula's 71 years of life were full of noteworthy accomplishments. A graduate of Harvard University, he was the former head of Opus Dei USA and served as director of Washington, D.C.'s Catholic Information Center for just shy of a decade. But the beloved priest's biggest contribution may have come in his final months.
He has suffered so much in the last year.
Father Charles Trulos took over as director of the Catholic Information Center earlier this year because Father Arnie was dying from cancer.
He always told me how much he was offering all his pain, his difficulties, his limitations for the salvation of all souls and for all the people he was dealing with.
It seemed only natural when the CIC's annual gala arrived in October to posthumously honor Father Arnie with the St. John Paul II Award for the New Evangelization.
He touched so many people so deeply.
Those who knew and loved Father Arnie made tributes in speeches, in videos, and in conversations throughout the event.
So, like when we moved to D.C., one of the first people I called was Father Arnie.
And a theme that continued to surface about Father Arnie's life was his powerful witness in suffering and in death.
When he was very ill at the end, I used to visit him from time to time, and I used to ask if there's anything I could bring him, and he would say, just bring me your sins.
It was a great privilege and honor just to see him live that out, both in a joyful way. He was making jokes up until the very end.
Especially at the end of his life, the courage that he showed and the manner in which he witnessed to what it means to be a faithful, loving Catholic.
Even the artist commissioned to create this portrait of Father Arnie during his final stages calls the Opus Dei priest a special person.
When I was commissioned to do his portrait, everyone knew that he was really suffering and we didn't have really much time. He was truly a holy man. It just felt like it.
from those who barely knew him to those he impacted more deeply.
He completely just brought love into this environment, and we were all gravitated to this gentleman who was truly witnessing to us.
Father Arnie showed us how to suffer well. It's so, in a culture that really wants to always take it so easy and take the easy way out, he showed us how to suffer with dignity and with courage.
Father Arnie Panula's legacy of living out God's call until the very end will surely carry on.
May the blessing of Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit descend upon us and remain forever. Amen.
I had the great privilege of meeting and knowing Father Arnie Panula. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord. That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. We'd love to hear from you with your questions or comments anytime at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.